This is the Thompson Cast. I am Mel Thompson. Today we're going to talk a little bit about a diplomatic matter, the impact of what could happen globally if this particular situation develops, and the fact that this is not going to be a situation as you see it in Syria. And yes, there is a overall political risk to what is going to possibly occur because of how other nations will get drawn into this mess from the standpoint of finances and possible conflict. What I am talking about is a situation in Iran. And obviously, as a foreign direct investor in the United States, you're not putting money into Iran because you cannot. However, Iran is a very, very key country in the fact that where it is located and what could happen to oil prices and other global markets if there is a major conflict between Iran and Israel, for example, if somehow Iran implodes into civil war or civil strife, it would have a global impact overall. And the political risk would come from the ancillary problems that a internal problem would have in Iran on other countries that do business with it, and in a secondary way do business through other markets with American foreign direct investors, and also on the price of oil if you start tossing the Strait of Hormuz into a problem where it is closed or shipping lanes are somehow delayed or impacted by Iran's internal or external problems. Now, having said that, I want to point out that I've seen several reports over the past few days that the Iranian currency is plunging, meaning it's not worth anywhere near what it should be. And now you start to see a clear indication that there is internal strife among the people of Iran and the government over the drop in the rial, which is their currency. Why this is significant is twofold. First and foremost, you don't have a clear indication of how strong the current Iranian government is. And when I say that, I'm talking about the face of the Iranian government, Mr. Ahmadinejad, and the elected officials within his government, elected and appointed officials within his government. Obviously, the supreme leader is the last and final say on all policy in Iran. However, Mr. Ahmadinejad is the public face and is a person that is clearly taking a brunt of the problems when it comes to politics and people pointing the finger and saying that your policies are not helping me or my family and they are not working. And this is just the people on the streets. When you start looking at the potential that a figure like Ahmadinejad and his government are creating, even not on their own or through their own works 100%, but in some way creating a situation where civil strife develops in Iran to the point where you might have an Iranian fall, I think that you are going to start seeing some internal bickering between the Ahmadinejad people and the theocracy which really runs Iran. You throw into that mix street protests, civil strife, other issues such as external factors, possibly an attack from Israel. You have the makings of a real disaster for the Iranian government. This is not going to be Syria. If this starts going down a road of real conflict within Iran, the government is not going to survive like it did in Syria or has done in Syria for a significant amount of time. I honestly don't believe they're going to fight their people to the same degree as Assad has. Assad's actions were predictable in Syria, even though people have kept saying, well, he's going to fall, he's going to fall. He may not fall for another year or two, the way things are going, or he may fall as I speak right now. But the fact that he's held on is not a shock, at least to me. But I would be surprised if you start having the same type of conflict or anything close to it in Iran, and if theocracy is able to hold on and Ahmadinejad is not somehow run down by these people in the street. I also believe that if you have a situation like this developing, you're going to have a huge impact on global markets, particularly oil markets. Transportation within the Middle East is going to be highly impacted. But I think in the end, it's going to be a good outcome because I think you're going to get a government in Iran where you, as a foreign direct investor, will have an opportunity to invest, do business, and conduct global commerce in a way that you have not been able to since 1979 with an Iranian government that is in contact and friendly with the United States government. Now, what has really started me to believe that there's going to be a real issue and real problem are several things. But thanks to modern technology, particularly YouTube, we now can see that there are riots in Tehran because shopkeepers have shut down their stalls, and the police are now fighting protesters, mainly because the rial, their currency, is so weakened that people can't afford basic staples. They can't afford goods. And when you can't afford to feed your family, you're probably going to have riots. I've always said that hungry people riot. People who are not hungry probably will not riot. They'll probably find other means of showing their displeasure, maybe possibly street protests. But hungry people will riot, and rightfully so. And Ahmadinejad, who once again is the public face of the Iranian government, is blaming all of this on what he calls psychological pressures from Iran's enemies. I don't think that these hungry people are buying it. I don't think that these people who can't put gasoline in their cars, and they are in the Middle East, they're a Middle Eastern country, I don't think they're going to be buying this rhetoric any longer. I believe that they blame Ahmadinejad's government. And I think the impact and effect of these protests is not a blip on the radar screen. I think it's going to be a long-term problem. I think eventually the Iranian government is going to fall. You're going to have an Iranian fall in spring. And I think that this is the beginning of it. I could be once again 100% wrong. But please remember, if I am right, that you should be bracing yourself for all of the ancillary political risks that are going to flow from this, because all of the markets are going to be impacted by the strife, in no matter what form it may come in, for some period of time, based upon the fact that Iran is in a strategic position. It essentially can control and hinder traffic in the Strait of Hormuz, which is going to bump up the cost of oil and then gasoline. And there are other trade routes involved and other trade opportunities that you as a foreign direct investor must be very, very careful with, because you can't trade directly or indirectly with Iranian vendors, businesses, or the government. So overall, this is the beginning of a problem that, surprisingly enough, U.S. policy, without firing a shot towards Iran, actually helped develop. And in the long run, even if there is a conflict between other countries and Iran, the diplomatic route of sanctions, for once, are clearly working. They have shown they can work, but they don't work everywhere. But in the case of Iran, they appear to be working effectively enough where it might bring down the Ahmadinejad government and possibly long-term and overall the theocracy, and turn Iran into a more democratic and stable society. This has been the Thompson Cast. I am Mel Thompson.